Good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to give everybody the opportunity to be let into the meeting before we start. Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Stacy Paisno, and I'm a lead project manager at the South Florida Water Management District, and I am the Cooperative Funding Program Manager. Today, we're going to be going over the FY25 process, and I will be your host and moderator for today's webinar. Currently, we have about 30 people on the call. This webinar is being recorded and live streamed to the SFWMD TV's YouTube channel. At the end of this webinar, the link will be provided on our CFP website that will take you to the YouTube channel recording. Once we get done with our presentation, I will go through some housekeeping items on how to provide comments or questions. Governor DeSantis signed a new executive order that continued to request recurring funding for alternative water supply development. The governor and the legislature have recognized the importance of these projects and the protection of Florida's natural resources. And over the last 5 legislative sessions have appropriated $230 million statewide for water supply development projects. For FY25, the governor has currently requested $80 million in funding for alternative water supply and water conservation projects. During the May 2023 governing board meeting, the FY23 project list was approved and forwarded to DEP for funding allocations. That list is posted on our website. The districts have not been notified yet of the FY24 allocations. We hope to hear something in the near future. On our website, you will find our contact information. There is a generic COOP funding email address that you can send questions to, or you can reach out to myself, Adele, Jim, or Robert individually. Our contact information is on the website. On our website, you're going to find the updated program guidelines for 2025, the updated application for AWS. We have a new AWS cost calculator that is a required submission for all AWS projects. The water conservation applications, one is for urban projects and the other is for agricultural and nursery projects. The cost calculator for those projects is embedded within that application. We have a required acknowledgement form that has to be signed by someone with signature authority. So whether that be an HOA president or treasurer, a utilities director, a finance director, whoever it is, just so we have that as part of your application submission. We also have example applications for different AWS and water conservation projects for you to review. I highly recommend that folks take a look at those. Our anticipated schedule, we released the application on December 4th. Today is the first of 2 informational webinars. The second will be on January 25th at 10 a.m. It will be the exact same information as today, but we want to reach the broadest audience possible and allow flexibility with everyone's schedule. The application will close on February 26th at 4 p.m. That is a Monday, and that is a hard deadline. The website portal will immediately shut down at 4 p.m. I highly recommend that you do not wait until 3:58 to submit your application. Once the portal closes, it's too late. During March and April, we will have an internal review process. And in May, I will present the proposed FY25 project list for governing board approval and ultimate submittal to DEP in May. Who can apply? Any public or private user. So we try and capture everybody that we can think of. So utilities, agriculture, HOAs, condos, nonprofits, you name it, you can typically apply for this grant opportunity. To be eligible for our program, you have to be a public or a private entity. You need to adhere to all application instructions. If you're a local government, you must have an adopted ordinance that comports with the district's year-round irrigation rule, as well as have an approved water supply facilities work plan per state statute to be eligible for funding consideration. If you're a local government and you do not meet either one of these requirements, you will not be moved forward in the review process. Some user groups that aren't eligible for funding include if it's a single family residential user who wants to upgrade their irrigation system, that's not an eligible consideration for our program. Or if you are out of permit compliance with any district or state permits. This is a reimbursement program. No one is guaranteed to receive the full 50% funding. Applicants are responsible to move forward with a project with or without district and/or state funding. Our anticipated dates to assist applicants is the district's fiscal year, which will be October 1st of 2024 through September 30th of 2025. Those dates are subject to change based on legislative appropriations and agreements between FDP and the district. We have provided a start date, again, to assist you to help determine what your phasing would be or what you could potentially get done within a year timeframe. Allowable cost are cost towards the project identified in the application, and it's for construction or implementation cost only within the funding period. Non-allowable costs are anything that is before or after the stated funding period. We don't fund pilot projects, design, permitting, engineering, or O&M, operations and maintenance. We also don't cover in-kind services. So if you have a project where it's all employee or volunteer basis, those are not covered expenditures for the project. We do have 2 different project types. AWS is to increase the water supplies through development of non-traditional water sources and or storage. Robert will discuss those in more detail in the next few slides. And our water conservation program is anything that uses hardware or technology to increase water use efficiency. And Adele will be discussing those specifics later in the presentation. As part of the DEP AWS guidance document, the districts are required to provide a prioritized list of projects based on some of the following considerations, which includes, do these provide regional benefits? Does it support an MFL water body? Are there additional benefits such as water quality, flood control? Projects need to be shovel ready and have undergone a cost benefit analysis. Historically, the program governing board guidelines have considered that applicants be within the district boundaries or provide benefits to our district. And it must be an AWS or water conservation project. Again, it's only for construction or implementation of said projects. So again, no O&M, design, engineering, permitting, or pilot projects. Projects should support the mission of the district and or an approved water supply plan. We do look at prioritized projects based on regional or resource considerations, such as a restricted allocation area. And local governments must have an approved irrigation ordinance, which comports with our district's year-round irrigation rule. The item in gold is our new eligibility requirement. In November of 2022, the governing board approved an eligibility requirement, which does take effect during this cycle, that if you do not have an approved water supply facilities work plan per statutory requirements, you will not be moved forward in the process for funding consideration. The irrigation ordinance and the water supply facilities work plan do not apply to private entities. And at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Robert Wamberstraat. He's our reuse coordinator to discuss the alternative water supply requirements.
Thank you, Stacy. My name is Robert Wamberstraat. I'm the AWS reuse coordinator here at the South Florida Water Management District. The AWS projects are those that increase water supplies through the development of non-traditional water sources. And those include salt water, brackish water, reclaimed water, excess surface water or storm water, and any other source that's designated as a non-traditional source in one of the district's regional water supply plans. Storage development for a non-traditional source is also included. And as Stacy said earlier, operational and management projects, even if they're related to the development of a non-traditional source, are not part of this program. This is for the initial construction of this type of infrastructure. Back, I think it was on slide 9, Stacy discussed some of the general considerations for this program. I'm going to drill down into some of the ones that relate specifically to the AWS or Alternative Water Supply Program projects. And those are whether the project reduces dependency on traditional sources, whether the project supports the goals and objectives of the district's regional water supply plans, if they support ocean outfall legislation, and if the project contributing to a resource limited area. And again, in a nutshell, this part of the program is for the construction of projects that increase water supply by developing non-traditional sources of water. So within any alternative water supply project, there are going to be costs that are qualified as eligible for reimbursement through this program and some that are not. So I'm going to go through both of those two categories and start off with these, which are the allowable costs. And those would include raw water transmission lines for, say, brackish and salt water sources, reclaimed water transmission lines, reclaimed water storage tanks and pump stations, reverse osmosis trains and any pumps and other necessary equipment, ASR wells, brackish water wells, production wells, and concentrate disposal wells if they're associated with an AWS project. So this slide shows the items that are related to these AWS projects that are not qualified for reimbursement under this program. And those include the design, permitting, any videos, operations and maintenance type actions, as-built designs, and any construction of finished water projects, and that includes storage tanks or transmission lines for finished water. End user connections are also not supported by this program, and neither are backup generators. The full list is shown in the CFP guidelines document, which you can find on the district's website. All right, so I'm going to assume that some of you or many of you perhaps have applied to our program in the past. So this slide and the next are going to, well, this slide is going to show a few of the newer items for our project, for our program. This year, you will be asked to show a quantification of the total phosphorus and total nitrogen reductions or removal efficiencies for your project. There's also a new AWS calculator, and it's provided by the district, and you must use this project, you must use this calculator as part of your application. Also, we're asking if any type of green infrastructure is associated with your project, we're asking you to identify that, and that would be something like a polishing pond or engineered wetland, that type of thing. Now, for reclaimed water projects, there's a few other little things. You will be required to list any known future reclaimed water users. If you don't have those lined up, that's okay. You can state that in your application. But if you do know them, we would like to see that on your application. And then there's some ancillary documentation that it's also required. And this includes any existing or future water, wastewater service area boundary, existing and proposed reclaimed water distribution lines and distribution areas, so service areas for reclaimed water, and any reclaimed water end users, as I said earlier. And then if there is a mandatory reuse zone in your service area, we would like you to include the ordinance number for that, and also the extent of that zone. These items I just mentioned should be submitted to the district in the electronic format, such as a shapefile or an AutoCAD, and they should be editable. That means not a still image in a PDF format. These should be editable. These items and the submission requirements associated with them are listed on question 5 of the application. So in case you didn't get it all down now, you can refer to question 5 and you should be up to date, no problem. Okay, the last item I wanted to cover relates to how you describe your AWS project deliverables on your application. This is regarding or located in table 2. And what we're asking for is a list of the clear deliverables of what your project is going to produce so that the reviewers know exactly what we're talking about. And this is important because the review process for the applications is not infinite. And so providing more detail will help the internal review process happen and not have to go through back and forth with requests for additional information. So we're going to look at this first example. Well, before we go on to the task 4 highlighted in this at this moment, I want to refer back to tasks 1, 2, and 3. We know that those are part of a project, and those are items that should be described in the text of your scope of work in the application, where you have ability to provide a narrative, but those don't belong on your deliverables table, on table 2. So now we're going to just kind of look at number 4 and also number 5. These two allude to the actual products of our project. Products of this particular project, but in the top example, they're too generic. They don't really let the reviewers know what's going on. So you'll see they've been brought down into a revised table example, the lower part of your screen. And in this section, you can see what the projects are actually going to create. So now the reviewer would know that there's going to be 2 wells, approximately 4,500 linear feet of transmission line, and we can see the breakdown of the reimbursable items that are related to the RO facility. Again, we're showing you this because the review period is finite, and we've had a little bit of difficulty in the past going back and forth with some entities that didn't provide this level of detail. If you can do this on your application, it has more of a chance to sail through the review process. And that's all that I have prepared. I'm going to pass it over to Adele Pena. She's the Water Conservation Analyst of the South Florida Water Management District, and she's going to review the highlights for the water conservation side of this program.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Adele. I'm here to give you a short overview of the water conservation projects. So the goal of CFP projects for water conservation is to support projects that improve water use efficiency and water conservation overall. And entities that normally would apply for these types of projects are agricultural producers, utilities, HOAs, businesses. And previously funded projects have included high efficiency indoor fixtures and appliance retrofits, automatic flushing devices, as well as irrigation retrofits. The project can also be implemented as a rebate program. A lot of utilities and other agencies will do this. For agricultural producers, examples are irrigation use efficiency improvements and cooling tower and HVAC retrofits for the industrial sector. So when you apply, we are considering the following on the list. So we're looking at what water source is being conserved, the quantity of water being saved. We're looking at the quality of the application, how much detail is included, what are the environmental benefits and community benefits overall. We are particularly looking at how much money is being spent to save 1,000 gallons of water. So we really want you all to design projects that have a cost effectiveness that is less than or equal to $6 per kilogallon. So our conservation projects, the major categories are urban and agricultural projects. The urban categories are going to be indoor, outdoor. So the indoor projects, you're looking at fixtures and appliances. And then for outdoor, it's irrigation, sensors, and system audits. New construction, we may be able to fund new construction projects if the builder is working towards Florida Water Star certification. And to learn more about Florida Water Star, please visit their website, floridawaterstar.com. Additional urban projects include industrial processing, cooling water use efficiency upgrades, advanced meter analytics, and online customer portals. And there may be other projects that we are open to that may not necessarily be listed here, so you can always run that by us. Things that are not fundable will be indoor fixtures for new construction, unless, like I mentioned, the builder is working towards Water Star certification. Any automatic meter reading, antennas, relays, and any kind of hardware that is really for maintenance. Also water urinals, new irrigation systems, and any replacement landscaping. None of those are fundable. For agricultural projects, these are going to be specific to water use efficiency and irrigation management. So examples are precision ag, installation of moisture sensors, weather stations with telemetry, flow meters, sprinkler head conversions, automation, VFD retrofits. And again, we are open to other projects that may not necessarily be listed here, but as long as they save or conserve water. So things that are not fundable is installation of new irrigation systems or extension of the system. Culverts or any other water control structures, replacing old emitters with emitters that don't improve flow rating, filtration systems, and anything related to nutrient management is not allowable. Pump replacement, freeze frost protection, and any reservoirs and tailwater ponds. Again, you guys are encouraged for further detail to look at the CFP guidelines, and you're always free to contact us. And with that, I'll turn it over to Steve.
Thank you, Adele. So I'm going to run over a couple slides on our website just to have a familiarization for everyone. If you haven't had the opportunity to go to the website, you can always just type in sfwnd.gov/COOP, COOP funding, and it'll redirect you right to our grants funding opportunities page. So we just have a generic description of the program, and then we go into our FY25 application cycle. So as you go down, you'll see our schedules presented. The application portal, again, I want to stress that this will close at 4 p.m. on February 26th. Please do not wait until the last moment to try and upload your applications. If you're having any difficulties downloading anything from the list of documents here or the example applications, please reach out to one of us and we will work with our web folks to make sure any broken links are corrected. One of the feedback items that I got last year is that it wasn't really clear about where the online submission portal was. So I have broken this out. So right above the list of documents on the website, you're going to click on the online submission portal once you have completed your application, your acknowledgement form, and any other files that you wish to upload into the portal. So once you're ready and you click on the portal, it's going to redirect you to this other site. So a couple things that I want to go over is if you are a consultant who is completing an application on behalf of a client, I would request that you provide the applicant's contact information, direct contact information. So if there are questions regarding the application, I can reach out to them directly. In the past, I have gotten generic email addresses such as info@Riverside. And then I can send an email to that, but it kind of goes into Never Land. So if I have a direct contact, that is most helpful. Also on your application, please be sure if you are the consultant and I do need to contact you, please put your name there and I can get the information, but I also need to have the entity's contact information within the application itself. When you're ready to upload, you have to include your project latitude and longitude. If you are unsure of the decimal degrees to put in there, we do have a little click here for you to click on, and you can input your actual address and it will populate the lat, long, and decimal degrees for us before you submit your request. At least one file has to be uploaded in order for you to submit your request. We have the two different radio dials for if you're submitting for AWS or water conservation. Please select the correct version of what you're going to be uploading. We do have a size limit of how much you can upload. So if you are having issues, it could be a size limit. I also want to point out that you can only upload Word, Excel, PDF, and a zip file or a image file. So JPEG, PNG are typically the ones that I see. Your applications for AWS must be submitted in Word format. Your water conservation applications must be submitted in Excel format. This is also detailed out in our requirements. So at this time, that concludes our presentation. So we will open it up to questions and comments. If you are participating via Zoom, you can use the raise hands feature and I will call on you. If you are participating via phone, you can do *9 to raise your hand and *6 will mute or unmute your line. If you do have questions or comments, I would ask that you please state your full name and your affiliation prior to providing your comments or questions. And at this time, I will open it up. And I apologize in advance if I get anyone's name wrong. So Noelle Rivera would be first. You can unmute your line.
Yeah, this is actually Robert Pelham with Toho. We're a special district and we do not have a water supply facilities plan, which is required, but you allow special districts. So how do we handle that?
So who are you with?
Toho Water Authority.
So I don't think it applies to Toho. I know that there's a special circumstance with how it's operated, but I don't believe that applies to.
Yeah, yes. Okay. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. Next is John Carlson.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so this is John Carlson with the Florida Government Utility Authority. So similar along the gentleman's line, you know, you and I have talked about a month ago about this, the regional water supply plan. We're doing a project in Lee County and are working, I believe it's through Lee County, it's the regional water supply plan. And we've been working with our Pam Keys from the Lee County Utility Authority, utilities, excuse me. I know it's actually a program, I think, that the South Florida Water Management District is spearheading. My operations supervisor, he said, hey, it's an 18-month program. We're very heavily involved with it. It's going to be a big effort, but it really kind of encompasses in our minds sort of the goal of what we're trying to do with the water supply plan that's not required. So I guess my question is, would that suffice, or can we have further discussion to see if we can, we'd like to apply this year for the monies, but we need to, we've got to overcome this hurdle.
So John, what is the project? I know we've spoken, but I don't recall right at the moment.
The project is for water treatment plant 2 in Lehigh. Based on this, the good news is probably a lot of the project may be eligible for funding the entire project. So it's essentially utilizing an existing brackish water well, UFA well, and constructing 2 more UFA wells to supply a new 2 MGD RO plant at our water treatment plant 2. So we're under contract currently actually with Wharton Smith with a progressive design build project. But we haven't started construction yet. We're still getting the monies. We've gotten some SRF funding, but we're out looking to help ease the burden on our ratepayers. So we'd love to do whatever we can to move forward.
So from what I recall from our previous discussions and from what you just reminded me of, I think that you're eligible to apply for funding for FY25. We can talk more offline about specifics.
Okay.
If you have some additional questions as you're filling out the application, I'll be happy to walk through some of those issues with you.
Okay, well, let's do that. I'll keep plugging, if you will, on this on the application, but maybe we can talk in the next few days. That'd be great.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Next up, we have Nathaniel Watson. You can unmute. Nathaniel, I still show you as being on mute.
Can you hear me, Stacy?
Yes.
Okay. Hello. My question was really, and I think you may have spoken with Lawrence Teach this morning with regard
Yes.
to our prior submittal. If I understand it correctly, with regard to the 2024-2025 submittal, I believe that you have to submit, and the project has to be shovel ready for this February. But I was wondering about the timing of the project beginning. I think it says something about October. Is that solid for that? That the project must begin or commence construction within October of this year?
So let me clarify, because the FY24 project that you guys submitted is still under consideration for FY24 allocations. So that work is from October 1st of 2023 to at least September of 2024. Typically with our AWS projects, we're seeing anywhere from an 18 to 24 month contract for the timeline based on the projects. So that project has a different timeline that was submitted for last year's funding allocations versus this application cycle, which is for the FY25, which would be for any projects that start on or after October 1st of 2024.
Okay. So with regard to that particular project, I'm free to start that now then?
Correct.
Okay. All right. That was my question. Thank you for the clarification.
You're welcome. Robert at Toho, you still have your hand up? Did you have another? Okay. Larry Teach.
Hi, Stacy.
Hi.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. Along that same line that Nathaniel was asking, this current submission, we're looking at finishing up the design plans through the course of the year before October to have it ready for our next phases. We can still submit even though we don't have a fully designed shovel-ready project. It will be shovel-ready by the time the October funding is, or the projects are authorized. That would be permissible?
Yes, that is correct. You are able, if you are under design and you anticipate your project will be ready within the funding period, yes, we recommend that you submit a project application.
Excellent. Thank you.
You're welcome. Do we have any other questions? Okay, so I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce the first name, but Gasaway?
Yep, you got it right. Hi, my name is Lucy Gasaway. I'm with Orange County Utilities. I just missed what you just told the person before me. So how far along design can you be for a project in order to submit an application? Like when it's too soon and when it's acceptable to be considered as shovel ready?
So if a project is currently in the planning process where you haven't selected a design company or a design build, you're probably too soon in the process. But if you're already under design and you anticipate that your project would be ready to begin construction within fiscal year 25 being on or after October 1st of this year, 2024, then we would recommend that you go ahead and submit a project application for consideration.
Okay, so if we plan on starting construction on or before October 1st, then we're eligible. That's a clear.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you so much. Appreciate that.
You're welcome. Tyler. If you could unmute.
Does that work?
Yes.
All right. Question regarding the water supply facilities. when you say approval, is that approved by South Florida Water Management District?
So your supply facilities work plan, and I have one of my planners in the room, but typically you have a water supply facilities work plan that is approved by whether it's your county commission, city council, whatever your local authority is who would approve that. And I know it goes through a draft phase and then a final approval that meets state statutory requirements.
Okay, so it's not approval through the district, is our internal approval.
Correct.
Okay. Is it okay if I ask another question?
Absolutely.
Okay. Now, can we apply for like if we're looking at wellfield expansion, can we apply for funding certain wells if we're going over multiple years, or a piece of the project versus the entire project?
So Tyler, who are you with?
City of Fort Myers.
Sorry. Okay. City of Fort Myers. We do have projects that come in and they phase their projects. I'm going to use Toho as an example. It's one of my projects that I'm doing contract management on. Their first contract was for the first concentrate disposal well and 3 production wells, as well as the monitor well for the disposal well. And then they're phasing it out because they know it's going to be multiple years. So yes, you can come in and have where you're doing 2 production wells. We've had a couple other facilities who have done the same thing, where you're doing from a capital improvements plan where you're budgeting out. You can do 1 well, 2 wells, 4 wells, whatever it is you think you can do. But I do want to make the clarification that if you're installing a well, it has to be a complete well. We do not slice a well by above ground versus below ground. It should be a complete well. That means wellhead and all.
Okay.
Do you have any other questions?
Nope.
Okay, well, thank you. Do we have any other questions from anyone else that we can assist with? Larry? If you could, yeah, thank you.
Yeah, no, it just didn't come up too quick. We have some salinity monitoring wells. They wouldn't be part of, as part of a monitoring network rather than alternative water supply, but I just want to check.
I didn't hear.
I'm sorry, we have salinity monitoring wells. We were rehabilitating or redesigning, and I was wondering if they would also qualify as protection of the public water supply.
Unfortunately, no, those would not qualify for this funding program.
Had to ask.
Of course. Doesn't hurt to ask.
Nope.
All right. Any other questions? All right. Well, at this time, I would like to thank our speakers for today and everyone who joined us in today's meeting. And again, this will be posted on the SFWMD YouTube channel, as well as a link will be provided on the Cooperative Funding Program page. I hope you all have a wonderful afternoon.